What if I told you that America once built a bomber so advanced that it looked like it came from the future? It could travel faster than Mach 3, higher than 70,000 feet, and it was designed to outrun almost every threat of its time. Engineers believed that it would become the ultimate weapon of the Cold War. But there was a surprise. Before the aircraft could change history, history changed around it. This is the story of the XB-70 Valkyrie, the most ambitious bomber America ever built, and the future that never happened. In the 1960s, engineers built an aircraft that seemed to be decades ahead. It was big and had 6 engines and was designed to fly faster than almost anything in the sky. This was the XB-70 Valkyrie. The Cold War was going on, so the United States wanted to keep its strategic bombers in fight mode against a rapidly changing battlefield. Radar systems were improved, fighter aircraft were faster, and new air defense technology was making traditional bombers more vulnerable. The solution seemed simple. Develop a plane that could fly so high and so fast that nothing could reach it. The Valkyrie would be able to cruise above 70,000 feet at speeds above Mach 3. At that level of altitude and speed, engineers thought enemy interceptors would struggle to catch it. But creating this aircraft was not easy. Flying at 3 times the speed of sound created extreme heat and stress. Engineers had to come up with new solutions for materials, engines, and aerodynamics. Even the shape of the aircraft was revolutionary, and it was able to leverage the strong shock waves that the supersonic flight produced. For a moment, the XB-70 was the future of aviation. A bomber that could outrun danger. A machine built to dominate the skies. But while the Valkyrie was being created, the world was changing faster than anyone expected. A new threat was rising. Not another aircraft, not another fighter, but a technology that could challenge even the fastest plane ever built. Missiles. And soon, the question would become, was the XB-70 the future, or a masterpiece that came too late? The XB-70 Valkyrie looked like no bomber before it. Its massive delta wings and sleek white body were designed for one purpose: extreme speed. At Mach 3, the aircraft would fly so fast that enemy fighters would not be able to intercept it. Flying above 70,000 feet, it was designed to stay beyond the reach of many defensive systems. But speed created new problems. The aircraft generated enormous heat from air friction. Engineers had to use advanced materials and carefully design the structure to survive the extreme conditions of supersonic flight. The Valkyrie's 6 engines produced incredible power, allowing this giant aircraft to reach speeds once thought impossible. But the most interesting part was not so much how fast it flew. It was how it handled air itself. Its unique wing design allowed the aircraft to ride its own shockwaves, improving performance at high speed. The XB-70 was a masterpiece of engineering. But the world it was built for was already disappearing. For years, the dream was just that. Fly higher, fly faster. It becomes impossible to stop. But in the Cold War, aviation faced a new threat. Surface-to-air missiles had become more powerful and accurate. Speed and altitude were no longer enough for survival. The 1960 incident involving the U-2 spy plane proved that even extremely high-flying aircraft could be vulnerable. Military leaders began asking whether the Valkyrie would be able to survive. If missiles could reach higher altitudes, could a Mach 3 bomber still survive? The answer was uncertain. The XB-70 had been designed to be a fast aircraft, but that future was being replaced by something else. Missiles. Stealth. and new methods of fighting without sending huge bombers deep into enemy territory. The Valkyrie was about to become a symbol of a changing era. On September 21st, 1964, the XB-70 Valkyrie took its first flight. The huge aircraft lifted from the runway and proved that the impossible design could actually fly. Test pilots discovered that the Valkyrie worked much better than they had expected. The aircraft showed excellent stability and reached very fast speeds during testing. But every flight came with challenges. Operating a Mach 3 aircraft of this size pushed engineering standards. Heat, vibration, and structural stress demanded constant attention. So the Valkyrie was not only a test aircraft, it was a glimpse of what aviation might become. But while engineers were proving the aircraft's abilities, military strategy had already begun moving in another direction. The question was no longer, can we build it? The question became, do we still need it? The XB-70 Valkyrie also stood as the future of strategic aviation. But by the mid-1960s, that future was changing. Intercontinental ballistic missiles became an important part of nuclear strategy. Unlike bombers, missiles can travel across continents in minutes and cannot be intercepted easily with existing technology. The role of giant supersonic bombers became less important. The Valkyrie program was reduced from a planned operational bomber into a research aircraft. And instead of war, it became a flying laboratory. Engineers continued to test its performance and gathered valuable data about high-speed flight, materials, and aerodynamics. The aircraft that was supposed to dominate the skies would never enter regular military service. It was one of the greatest examples of a machine's technological success, but strategically unnecessary. When XB-70 lost its mission, it continued to push the envelope with aviation. The Valkyrie demonstrated the challenge of sustained Mach 3 flight during test flights. The aircraft was big and heavy and had powerful engines, and the design was very advanced in that aspect, which gave engineers knowledge that was important to future aerospace projects. At high speed, it was all about details. What were the key factors in heat expansion, airflow, and stability? The Valkyrie showed that building a massive aircraft capable of extreme performance was possible. Although it never became the bomber it was designed to be, the XB-70 became something else. A laboratory in the sky. A machine that showed how far engineering could go when imagination had no limits. On June 8, 1966, tragedy struck during a formation flight with the XB-70 Valkyrie. The aircraft was flying with another supersonic aircraft for a photographic mission when the two aircraft collided. The XB-70 was damaged beyond recovery. Test pilot Al White successfully ejected, but co-pilot Joseph Walker was killed. The accident shocked aviation. The loss of the aircraft was one of the major moments in the Valkyrie program. Only one XB-70 remained. The dream of a fleet of Mach 3 bombers was already gone. Now, even the experimental program was coming to an end. A further XB-70 continued flying test missions until the late 1960s. It allowed us to investigate supersonic flight and provided us with information of the kind that would help us in the development of aircraft. But the Valkyrie had limited time. New technology was moving forward. Stealth aircraft, advanced missiles, and satellites had changed the way nations acquired information and projected power. In 1969, the last flight of XB-70 took place. The giant Mach 3 aircraft returned to the ground for the last time. A machine built for the future had become a piece of history. Although the XB-70 never entered military service, it was not the end of the program. We learned many valuable things about high-temperature materials, supersonic flight, long-duration Mach 3 flight, and long flight of supersonic aircraft. These were the first steps in aerospace development that opened up possibilities for the next generation of aircraft design. The Valkyrie showed that a huge aircraft could fly at speeds once reserved for much smaller vehicles. Its futuristic appearance inspired generations of engineers, pilots, and aviation enthusiasts. Many aircraft disappeared after retirement. The XB-70 became something different. It became a symbol of ambition, a reminder of an era when engineers believed that almost anything was possible. However, it was not a failure of the XB-70 Valkyrie. It flew. It reached Mach 3. It accomplished many of the goals its designers had imagined. But history was moving faster than the aircraft itself. By the time the Valkyrie was ready, military strategy had changed. Missiles and new technologies had already begun replacing the roles they were built to perform. The aircraft arrived exactly as designed, and the world simply didn't need it anymore. And that is what makes the XB-70 so fascinating. Not because it failed to fly, but because it succeeded in a future that had already disappeared. Now the XB-70 Valkyrie is in a museum. Its 6 engines are silent. Its missions never came. But standing with it, it is difficult not to wonder what could have been. The Valkyrie offered a glimpse of another world, one where huge Mach 3 aircraft crossed oceans in hours and ruled the sky over all else by speed alone. That future never arrived, but engineers built it anyway. The great white aircraft remains where history has left it, as the evening light fades and the soft sound of a piano fills the room. A beautiful machine, a remarkable achievement, and perhaps the most extraordinary aircraft that arrived too late.